Hey everybody, welcome back to Everyday Journey. We're going to look at this Agri-Fab sweeper. This is a lawn sweeper. You can use it for grass and you can use it for leaves. I think it works best for leaves. When it comes to grass, it probably really works best when it's short grass. Let's say it's the stuff that was a little bit wet and it's kind of clumping up a little bit and you just want to go over it just to sweep it all up real quick, get it out of your yard so it looks better. That's where this thing actually works good. It doesn't work so good for tall grass. Like in my case, I originally got this in the summer. I tested it out with trying to mow really tall grass. I mean, we're talking like this tall, almost hay. And anyway, I mowed that with real quick with my mower and then tried to go back over and sweep it with this thing. And it did work, but because it's so long, it kind of gets caught up in the brushes some. So I got a picture of that, or at least show you how stuff kind of gets wound up in it so that you'll know. But overall, this thing is really good. But I'm going to make a few changes to it, and I'll tell you why. This thing I got used. So when it first comes in, and if you got it new, there would be two things that about this that would be probably different. And actually, I think they'd probably work okay, except for one thing. We'll go over it in a second. But this right here is one of my problems. These two bars. There's a bar at the top and a bar at the bottom. There's the new ones. They come with a kind of little hat thing that goes on the end of this bar, and you just tap it down with a hammer and it stays on there, and it keeps it from sliding through here very much. So it can't slide out, because in my case I don't have that on here. Of course it was used, but I'll be going along and this thing will just kind of fall. And so while it's useful, that right there makes it to where it's not useful, because it'll just fall down like this and you won't be able to use it. There, I'm gonna fix something for that, but and I think the top part, you know, the way this thing comes from factory probably is good once you put those things on there, because it makes it big enough, that little hat thing that goes on the end of it, makes it big enough to where it doesn't slide through the bag and then slide out. So if you were grabbing this bag, taking it off of here so you could dump it somewhere, it wouldn't come out of here very easily. The bottom, on the other hand, I will say that's a little different. In the bottom, there's just a groove down here, and I'll show you that in the video. But you could just pull this bar out. And in the video, they actually show where you just can unhook these straps, and then unhook the bar itself. Just take it out like this, and then you could just dump it like this. And that would be good, except for, like you can see right there, it's already starting to come off of here. So that would be maybe an issue. And there's supposed to be a little rubber stopper. Here's a picture of it. I'll give you a better picture. But it goes on the end of this, and mine only came with the one. So obviously the other one's gone. And it's supposed to help make it stay in this bottom track where it would just be sitting there. Gravity would be holding it in, and maybe a little bit of friction from these. But I'm going to fix that too, because I want to guarantee it's not coming out, because I find it a little awkward to unhook this thing and then try to dump it. In the video, they showed where you can just take the whole thing and just flip it over. And that would probably work, except for I could see that this bar would come out possibly in the same time this one would come off up here. And I'm just going to make it to where that doesn't happen at all. So the fixes I'm going to make is I'm going to drill through this top bar here, and then we're going to go ahead and either put a pin or something like that in it to make sure that it stays up here. And then I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm just going to drill through down here at the bottom and put a bolt in, and that'll basically keep it from being able to ride up out of that groove. And then it doesn't matter if I take the whole thing and dump it over, or if I do like I like to do, just grab the bottom of this thing and just flip it up like this and dump all the leaves out that way. To me, that's a little faster, and then you can just go back to sweeping. But that's what I'm going to do. Another real quick thing about this, though, before we get started with that, is that it does have, and this is probably a problem with some people whenever they use it, there's an adjustment on the front of it, and that changes the height of the brushes in here. And if you have that thing too low, depending on the height of your grass and how thick your grass is, it's going to be hard to push through. So And also at the same time, if your leaves are too thick and stuff, that's going to be hard to push through. But you can raise this up if you want to, have it to where it only takes the top layer of leaves off, if there's a lot of leaves anyway. And then you can lower it back down and then you can go and do the rest. Or like I said, if your lawn's really high, you can go ahead and raise that up. Right now it's set about midways for me, and that seems to work for my yard. I will say that you should probably mow your yard before the leaves start dropping. That way it's a nice, level, even surface for it to, it's not, that way the grass is not getting all intertwined in this thing. But anyway, that's all I've got. These things, they seem to work great. Everything I've used it so far. And I think I'm going to really enjoy using this again. So let's go ahead and fix it so I'll enjoy it even more. All right, so I've got my mill here. You can use a drill press for this. Would not probably recommend using just a regular drill because it's going to be rather hard to hold. This is probably going to be hard to hold anyway. So what I'm going to do real quick is just spot this. I'm hoping this should be probably pretty cheap metal, and therefore it should actually stay in place fairly well. And I'm just eyeballing this. That should work right there. And one of the things I'm doing with it is spotting it real quick. That way I can have something to actually a flat spot, hopefully, or somewhat easier spot anyway to go ahead and drill my hole through. I'm going to go with a really small hole. Not really sure what it's going to be yet. Let's see if okay. Just making sure the head of my mill is locked in. And we'll go ahead and drill this real quick. That was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But it is drilling in the right spot. So we'll go ahead and crank this thing back up real quick. I think we'll probably go with about 330 seconds. 330 seconds should work. Well, that took a little longer. I think that thing is pretty dull. Just a little bit dull. I could see it was only cutting up one side of the drill bit. So now we just have to move over to the other side. And hopefully we can leave it in place this time. Now I did mark this before I took it off so that I could see exactly where it needed to be. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is not anything that has any tight tolerances. It almost doesn't have any tolerances if it wasn't for just, I mean, I bet you I probably could get this, 1/8 of an inch, almost maybe 1/4 of an inch off, and it'll still work just fine. So yeah, that should work fine. All right. Now for the heck of it, put a little lubricant on that and go ahead and spot it. And don't do that. Well, it didn't break, but it doesn't mean it didn't just dull the crap out of it. So hopefully it's all good. Anyway, let's go ahead and do this one. So you can see there's only metal coming up on one side of this drill bit, so it's kind of cutting uneven and only cutting on the one side. So you could probably use a little bit of sharpening. Sadly, with the little ones like that, it's a little bit more difficult to do. I do have the drill doctor, which if you see my one video, you see how that thing works to sharpen this. And they will work, but I believe, if I remember right, that it really only goes down to 1/8 of an inch. So this will take care of my two top, or actually, yeah, it should take care of the holes here on top. Oh man. I guess somebody needs to bolt down the milling machine. I could have sworn it was already bolted down. All right. So you can see there, that's the hole, and it's probably about a little more than 1/4 inch from the end. Here's the other side, and it doesn't matter that they're both drilled through exactly the same way, because again, this is just going to be for a pin, like a cotter pin, just something to make sure that this stays in place. So after looking this over, I could put, I don't have any pins, so, and I was like a cotter key or something to go through there. And even if I did, I mean, this is just a welding rod just to show you, give you an idea. If I put it through there, it could still somehow come back out, especially like this. It could just lift over the top. So to fix that problem, I think instead of using any kind of pin or cotter key or something like that, I think I'm just going to use some copper wire. This is just scrap copper wire that I've stripped the ends off of. And it fits through the hole, and I think we're just going to go ahead and put it through and wrap it to the handle, and that will make sure that it can't come off at all. So I still could undo it later if I needed to, but I think this is the easiest fix so far, because that'll solve all my problems. It'll keep it from coming off, and it'll keep it from coming out of the bag because it won't come off. So the next thing we got to do is this bottom piece down here, and I'll try to get you a different camera view for that so you can see what I'm dealing with. All right, so this is the view from the top down, and you can see what I'm dealing with here. Let's get this out of the way. Is there's just a groove right here that this rod, so if I can keep from getting in the way of the camera, this rod just lifts out of and drops into, and that right there is fine, except for the fact that whenever you tip this thing forward, it's going to cause that rod to come out. So I think, honestly, the easiest thing to do here is probably just drill a hole through here, drill a hole through this second layer here, and then just stick a bolt through there. Something with a nylock nut that can go on the other end of it. That way it won't back its way off, and then that will keep the rod from coming out. All right, so I did find something. See here, it's not exactly ideal as far as the head, but it won't really matter because there's nothing over here on this end of it that will matter. The bolt itself is long enough. I do have a nylock nut. I do believe this is 10/32, or 10/32, and I'm going to drill this with 11/64. Should be a little oversized, or maybe actually it may be a little undersized, but it should work. Just feeding that in real quick. I want to see how it locks this in there. Oh yeah, just over the top of it. It's not going anywhere now. I can lift this out. We're good. And it's actually threading into the plastic. I probably wouldn't even need the nylock nut on it. But just to make sure, I'm going to overkill it and put it on there anyway. For those asking about how well this Icon ratchet, this little 1/4-inch drive ratchet is doing, it's doing just fine. Still using it to this day and everything works like it should. I think we're good. Just gotta do the other side the same way. All right, now we just gotta put the rod up top. And then we'll go ahead and put our wire through and lock this thing in. Tighten it all down, and should do exactly what we need it to. Now that's not coming off of there. This one's not coming out of there. The thing we got to worry about is these coming off, but I think those will be fine. So let's go test it out. Well, there you can see that thing worked pretty good. And all that stuff that I'm piling up there is eventually going over to my compost pile. Or it's going to go directly on top of everything in my garden so that it will give it a good layer for the winter, so that can start decomposing. And come springtime, I can go ahead and rake that up, put it into a pile, let it finish decomposing, and whatever good it did while it was there, the worms and stuff love it. So I'm sure well, I know for sure because I've done it before. It does great things for the garden, just putting it on top. It's not that good to leave it on there and plant through, but it will work if you need to. But I just rake it off and then go ahead and start getting everything ready. It takes care of the weeds and everything. It's a good thing to keep the soil in place over the winter. And it's almost as good as a cover crop. So hopefully you liked this video. If you did, hit that like button. Subscribe so you can get some of my other videos whenever I finally do come out with them. I am doing it, and I'm trying to make a note to actually do it a lot more often because this year has just been kind of crazy. So, but I will definitely make sure and get a lot more videos out there for you. If hit that like, subscribe, comment, love to read them. And until next time, y'all take care.